各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇今晚嘅26分鐘見證實錄。去年喺聯邦大選之中未能贏得執政地位嘅聯邦保守黨，係經歷長達7個月嘅黨領角逐之後，終於喺今年嘅9月選出博勵治為新一任嘅黨領。博勵治喺2004年首次晉身國會，曾經喺保守黨哈柏執政期間擔任過民主改革部長以及就業及社會發展部長。自成為官方反對黨領袖之後博勵治經常都抨擊現任自由黨政府嘅經濟政策，並且將目前嘅高通脹歸咎於杜魯多政府執政不力所引發。早前博勵治就首次以保守黨黨領嘅身份嚟到卑詩省，更加親身到訪本台接受我哋嘅專訪。Mr. Poilievre 你好啊，今次係你成為咗聯邦保守黨黨領之後首次嚟到卑詩啦。首先歡迎你嚟到卑詩，亦都多謝你親身嚟到我哋嘅電視台接受我哋嘅專訪。
Thank you for having me.
首先想問你嘅問題相信都係目前加國國民其中一個最關心嘅問題啦，就係你認為聯邦政府可以做啲乜嘢去處理目前嘅高通脹呢？
Well, it's what government must stop doing. They have to stop causing inflation. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. $500 billion of inflationary deficits mean more money bidding up the goods we buy and the interest we pay. The more Trudeau spends, the more things cost. It's just inflation. He's given us 40-year highs in inflation, and his policies are only making it worse. Now he wants to triple the carbon tax, which will drive up heat, gas, groceries even further. So we need to reverse Trudeau's inflationary policies to restore the buying power of our money. That means capping government spending, cutting waste, eliminating inflationary taxes like the carbon tax, and removing red tape off our businesses and farmers so that they can produce more food, build more homes, and generate more Canadian energy that is affordable for our customers. So in other words, instead of creating more cash, we need to create more of what cash buys: food, homes, energy. That's what my government will make happen.
加拿大中央銀行自今年3月起多次加息，希望壓抑通脹，但係以目前嚟睇未見成效。你認為當中出現咗啲乜嘢問題呢？
Trudeau's deficits, when you run big deficits, it's more demand on the economy because all of that money the government is spending buys things, and that bids up prices. Furthermore, deficits drive up interest rates because they compete with private borrowers for a scarce amount of lending. And so when Trudeau runs these monster deficits, he's adding to both inflation and higher interest rates. So everyday Canadians are paying the price for his high costs. We have to make government affordable so that life is affordable, and we have to cancel the Trudeau plan to triple the carbon tax.
根據一份最新嘅加拿大中央銀行嘅報告就指加國喺2023年嘅上半年有可能出現經濟衰退。你認為聯邦政府應該點樣應對目前加國嘅經濟狀況啊？
Well, the problem is that we have the private sector is like a skinny man, and the government is a big fat man on the back of that skinny man. And this skinny man is carrying the big fat government up a steep hill. But we have to put the government on a diet and get him off the back of the private sector so that our workers, our entrepreneurs, and our farmers can produce more. I'm going to incentivize municipalities, for example, to speed up building permits so that we can build more homes. Canada has the second lowest building permits in all of the OECD. So in Canada, the average building permit takes 250 days to get. South Korea, 28 days. So we can't get things done. That's why we don't have enough houses, enough factories, enough warehouses. We need to get the government out of the way so that we can get fast permits for homes, pipelines, mines, shopping centers, and other economic infrastructure that is required to provide jobs for our workers and goods for our consumers.
其實係咪一啲嘅外部問題，例如係俄烏戰爭又或者係持續咗差唔多3年嘅疫情，導致呢一啲嘅經濟問題啊？
No, No, we get less than 0.3% of our trade is with Russia and Ukraine. Less than 0.3%. And the things that Russia and Ukraine produce are things we already have. They produce oil, gas, and food. What do we have in Canada? Oil, gas, and food. We have the third biggest supply of oil. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. And we have, I think, the fifth most agricultural land per capita of any country on earth. We don't need Russia or Ukraine to feed or power our economies. The problem is that Trudeau has driven up the cost by running huge deficits, paying for it with printed money, increasing taxes on workers and businesses, and put in place obstacles that prevent our farmers, our workers, and our businesses from supplying affordable goods to our people. That's what we need to change. One last thing I would point out is that we had 5% inflation before Russia invaded Ukraine. Inflation was already 2.5 times the target before the invasion. So we can't blame Russia. I'm against Russia's invasion, of course, but we can't blame a foreign war for something that happened before that war even began.
加國好多嘅大城市，例如係溫哥華或者多倫多等等啊，目前都面對嚴重嘅房屋短缺問題啊。你啱啱都提過話咧，贊成加快一啲嘅建築許可證，或者係增加建築許可證㗎。咁但係呢方面嘅工作咧，都係市府方面嘅工作啦。咁聯邦政府方面其實可以做啲咩，令到房屋變得更加可負擔啊？
So it is municipal permitting, but the federal government does provide lots of infrastructure money. So I'm going to attach conditions to that money. My message to the municipalities will be that if they want more federal infrastructure money, they will have to allow more houses to be built. So I will link the number of infrastructure dollars that a city gets to the number of houses that get built. That will incentivize cities to speed up and lower the cost of building permits. Secondly, I will sell off 15% of the federal buildings. There's 37,000 of them. I'm going to sell them off to convert them into affordable housing for our youth. I'm going to look at all the federal lands we have, and any that are not ecologically sensitive, I'll consider selling some of those as well so that we can free up more space for home construction. We need something like 2 million houses over the next decade to house not only the existing population, but all of the immigrants who will come in that time period. And so I'm going to make sure that we build more houses. So in other words, print less money, build more homes.
咁與此同時啊，加國有一批嘅國民啊，目前面對一個情況，就係佢哋難以繼續負擔房屋按揭，咁但係咧佢哋嘅房屋價格咧又正在下跌喎。咁呢一個情況咧，你有冇關注到啊？
It's a disaster, and look, the Trudeau government pumped $500 billion of new cash into our economy over the last 2 years. They increased our money supply by 27% since 2020. 27%. During that time, the economy has only grown by 2.7%. So we've added 10 times as much money as we have added goods and services that money buys. What did that do? It went into the financial system, got lent out, bid up housing prices, and then the government said, don't worry, interest rates will stay low for decades, so you can borrow all you want. Well, now interest rates have skyrocketed, and the families that believe Justin Trudeau's government are in a disastrous state because they have houses they can't afford to pay for, but they can't sell them because the prices have gone down. The prices are down, but the costs are up. It's an incredible combination, almost unprecedented. So now we have to help these families get through this disaster that will only get worse. What we need to do is quickly get the deficit down so that we can bring inflation and interest rates lower. And we have to unleash the productive free market economy so that people can get bigger, more powerful paychecks to fund their monster mortgages. These are the only things we can do to get out of the mess Trudeau has created.
喺了解過博勵治喺改善通脹、經濟、房屋問題嘅立場之後，休息翻嚟，我哋就繼續會有聯邦保守黨黨領博勵治嘅專訪，聽聽佢喺其他議題上有啲乜嘢政策方向。翻嚟節目時間，有民意調查顯示啊，自從博勵治擔任黨領之後，聯邦保守黨嘅支持度有所上升。 咁到底佢喺稅務、醫療、移民、對華政策等等嘅議題上有啲乜嘢意見同睇法？咁對於本國嘅能源發展方面，佢又持啲乜嘢立場呢？點解一直以嚟你都唔贊成徵收碳稅啊？咁但係咧，自然資源部長早前就表示，目前自由黨政府正係考慮到制定呢一個嘅碳差價合約，即是話一旦碳稅被取消時任嘅政府就要賠償翻俾曾經投資喺減碳嘅企業。咁如果佢哋真係咁樣做嘅話，會唔會影響到你？如果一旦執政，你對碳稅嘅做法啊
？Well, look, Trudeau's plan to triple the carbon tax is going to increase heat, gas, groceries at a time when people can least afford it. We believe in technology and not taxes. We should expand hydroelectricity, nuclear power. We should incentivize investments in carbon capture so our businesses can bury the carbon back in the ground where it came from. And we should basically work to make alternative energy more affordable rather than making traditional energy more expensive. That's the way we increase people's purchasing power and protect our environment at the same time.
咁即係如果你一旦執政，你會唔會取消碳稅呢？
Yes.
咁你會點樣說服其他人啊？你嘅能源政策唔會損害到環保同我哋嘅環境啊？
Well, the carbon tax has not done anything for the environment. The government has missed every single target for greenhouse gas reductions since the carbon tax came into effect. In fact, even in 2020, when much of the economy was locked down, the government still failed to reach its carbon reduction targets. This is not an environmental plan that the Liberals have. It is a tax plan to raise money, and it hasn't worked. So instead, we need to shift to technology instead of taxes and lower the cost of alternative energy rather than increasing the cost of traditional energy.
BC 省民近期都飽受高油價困擾啦。咁有人就提出其實加國本身係能源國家嚟㗎，我哋係咪其實可以做到自給自足，甚至供應埋俾其他國家呢？你認為呢一個做法現實上可唔可行啊？
Well, of course, we have the third biggest supply of oil on Earth. We have, I think we're the sixth for natural gas reserves. We have abundant hydroelectricity in BC, Manitoba, Quebec, and Newfoundland. We have, I think, the 12th biggest supply of lithium, but we don't mine it because there's too much red tape and too many obstacles. We have copper, graphite, cobalt, all of the resources needed for electric cars. But unfortunately, Trudeau's regulatory regime, his gatekeepers, stand in the way of actually getting these things out of the ground. So we need to speed up the permitting to extract more of these minerals that are necessary for the green economy. We need to allow Quebec to expand hydroelectricity, and we need to allow our energy sector in Western Canada to produce more and use some of the proceeds to invest in greening their growth. That's the solution, rather than keeping it in the ground and keeping energy expensive, as Trudeau has done.
講到醫療方面咁加國目前出現嚴重嘅醫護人手短缺危機咁急症室輪候時間又好長啦，有部分嘅急症室甚至乎因為人手問題而需要關閉添。咁你認為聯邦政府可以點樣做去應對目前嘅醫療危機啊？
Well, I think the Prime Minister should work with the premiers rather than fighting with them and get a solution on health care. It is unacceptable that in this country of ours, people are waiting in emergency rooms for all night to get basic care for their children. I also think we need to speed up the recognition of foreign credentials. We have immigrant doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals who are forced to sit on the sidelines rather than work in their field because medical licensing bodies won't let them practice. So I'm going to work with the provinces who are responsible for regulating professional occupations to bring in a new list of goals. One, we should have a 60-day rule. Within 60 days of an immigrant applying to work in a profession, they should get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from. Second, I'm going to federal government is going to back up 30,000 small study loans for immigrant professionals who are close but not yet licensed so that they can take time off work, study, pass the exams, get licensed to practice. Third, I'm going to work with the professional bodies across the country to come up with training manuals that future immigrants can start working on before they even arrive. So if you are an architect in Shanghai and you want to be an architect in Canada, you're waiting 6 months or something to get here, why don't we provide you with a module so you can start preparing to get yourself licensed as an architect while you're still in China, and then when you arrive in Canada, you get your license, you get to work. So these are the steps I'm going to take to get professionals into not just the medical system where they're most needed, but also in other professions that are licensed.
你經常都批評杜魯多政府花費過多，咁係咪即是話如果你一旦執政，我哋就會見到有大幅度嘅削減服務啊？
No, we're going to bring in a pay-as-you-go law that requires government find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. We need that. We have to cap government. It's growing too fast. You know, government spending is 30% higher today than it was in the year before COVID. So now that COVID's done and all the COVID programs have lapsed, we're still a third higher in government spending than we were in 2019. That is driving up debt, taxes, and inflation. Canadians can't afford this expensive government, so we need to bring in a rule, dollar for dollar. You want a new dollar of government spending, you have to find $1 of savings. That's how families and businesses operate. If your household wants to spend more on a vacation, you spend less on, a new patio or on something else, or you find a bargain to keep everything within the budget. Politicians should be no different.
你嘅稅務政策嘅方向同自由黨咧有啲乜嘢唔同嘅地方啊？
Well, I believe $1 in the hands of the person who earned it is better than $1 in the hands of the politician who taxed it. And right now, Trudeau, as he's raised income tax, he's taken away popular tax credits for families. He has increased the carbon tax. He's now increasing payroll taxes. So he believes that he can spend your money better than you spend it yourself. I believe that you should keep more of your money and you can decide how to spend it. But to do that, we need to control government spending. That will allow us to bring down both debt and taxes.
咁自由黨政府就表示計劃喺未來嘅3年吸納145萬名嘅移民。咁聯邦保守黨喺移民政策方面又有啲乜嘢嘅方向呢？
Well, I'm not sure that we can believe anything the Liberals say about immigration. We have 2.6 million people in a backlog right now waiting to have their applications processed. 1.2 million are past the service standard. We have businesses that can't get workers, family members separated from loved ones, and refugees languishing in camps because this government can't process immigration. So my approach is that immigration should be demand-driven. So, for example, economic immigration should be driven by employer demands. If you are an employer, you've tried to fill a job with a Canadian but can't find one, you should be able to quickly sponsor someone from outside of the country to come in, fill the job, work towards a permanent residency and citizenship. That way we can allow the market economy to drive to determine who comes to work as in our economy as an economic immigrant. I was just at a Punjabi restaurant the other day. They built the place 4 years ago, but they haven't opened because they can't get a cook. They need to get a cook from the Punjab who knows how to make Punjabi meals. But they can't get the cook, so they can't open the restaurant. So this beautifully decorated and furnished restaurant sits empty for 4 years. If they could bring a cook, then they'd be able to hire local Canadians as the waitresses and waiters, as the other support staff, and they could provide meals to the community in that wonderful facility. But instead, the place sits empty. So this is the result of Trudeau's delays, of an immigration system that does not work because of incompetence by the Trudeau Liberals. I would remove these obstacles, clear the backlog, and have an immigration system based on the demands of our economy, of our families, and of our not-for-profits who want to sponsor refugees.
可唔可以講一講啊？你嘅對華方針係點㗎？咁同以往保守黨黨領嘅方向有冇啲乜嘢唔同咧？咁同埋咧，你會點樣評論目前自由黨嘅亞太政策啊？
Well, I thought that Prime Minister Harper did a very good job in his relations with China. He defended Canada's interests, and he did so in a way that both was professional, but also stood up for our values of human rights and freedom. And I think that is the approach that we should take in the future. Mr. Trudeau has been aware of allegations of interference in the recent elections since January, and he's done nothing. We need to get to the bottom of those allegations, and we need a government that stands up for our interests and our values as Canadians.
講到卑斯嘅濫藥問題啦，情況越嚟越嚴重。咁你認為聯邦政府喺呢方面應該做啲乜嘢工作啊？
Well, look, we have a failed experiment. The NDP and Liberals said that if we flooded the streets with taxpayer-funded drugs and legalized those drugs, that there would be no more overdoses and we would have safety. Exactly the opposite has happened. We have, under Justin Trudeau, a 300% increase in overdose deaths in BC. 300%. When he took office, 500 people died in a year. This year, we expect 2,000 people in BC are going to die of overdose. So it has been a disaster. Meanwhile, his soft laws on repeat violent offenders are allowing the same people to reoffend. We all agree that if a young person makes a mistake, they should have a second chance. But according to a letter from BC mayors, there are 40 offenders in Vancouver responsible for 6,000 arrests. 40 people arrested 6,000 times. That's unbelievable. I mean, that's like 150 arrests per person in 1 year. The same 40 people. Why don't we keep those people in jail? Take the worst actors, the most violent repeat offenders, put them behind bars. Make their bail conditions more difficult so that they can't come out and reoffend over and over again. We should, instead of paying taxpayers' money to fund heroin and other drugs, we should take that money and put it into recovery and treatment. Bring the addicts into inpatient care with a bed, a counselor, detox medications, fix them, get the poisons out of their bodies, give them therapy so they can have breakthroughs and understand and overcome the root cause of their addiction, and then put them back out into the world in a job with support. And finally, we need to put resources into guarding our border against illegal importation of drugs and guns. The border is open to those illegal substances coming in, and that's why violent crime is up 32% under Justin Trudeau. Guard the border, take the worst offenders, put them behind bars, and give recovery and treatment to the addicts on the street so that we can save their lives from overdoses.
你經常都提到要國民重新有返控制權，其實係咩意思呢？
Well, listen, I think right now people feel like they've lost control of their lives. Big bossy government has taken their money and told them what to do. 35-year-olds live in their parents' basements because house prices have more than doubled under Justin Trudeau. Rising interest rates and higher taxes gobble up more of people's paychecks. The government imposed vaccine mandates on people who would otherwise have preferred not to. They should have had the freedom of choice, in my opinion. The government now wants to censor the internet with Bill C-11 that will determine what people see and say online. This is all excessive government control that robs people of their personal agency. So I want small government with big citizens to leave money in people's pockets, because a dollar in the hands of the person who earned it is better than in the hands of the politician who taxed it. I want to repeal the internet censorship laws. I want to remove government obstacles to build faster and more affordable housing. I basically want everyday people to have the freedom to make their own decisions and live their own lives with minimal government interference.
再一次多謝你今次嚟到我哋嘅電視台接受我哋嘅專訪啊！
Thank you. I'm always enjoying my stay in beautiful British Columbia. Thank you.
好啦，今晚嘅節目時間又差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mag26@fairchildtv.com。咁如果觀眾想重溫翻今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得翻㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。